Hey, all you minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at the Absolute Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, Volume 2 from DC Comics, so please stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before I get started, this Absolute Edition is due out in the direct market on October 28th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market, so places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But your local comic book store, cheapgraphicnovels.com, Tales of Wonder, and In-Stock Trades will have it on Wednesday, October 28th, if not before then. But it's coming out. It's finally here. And here it is compared to Volume 1. By the way, Volume 1, or at least my Volume 1, is the original printing. Mine didn't have the bad binding issue. I think I lucked out because I think like 80% of these had some horrible binding. But there is a reprint, and instead of DC Vertigo, we have the DC Black Label line on the reprint. But other than that, the binding is better, and it is identical. And here is Volume 2. Let's look at it together. Here's what the spines will look like on the shelf. And then the back side of the spines. And I say back side, it really depends on how you put your books up on your shelves. And then the images from the back of the Absolutes. So let's take a look in here. I do love the feel of this cloth cover. I don't remember what it's called exactly. I'm sure one of you wonderful people will leave that in the comments below. What is that, velvet? But let's go ahead and get this opened. We have this beautiful design there for the bookend pages. Absolute Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. Yes, Volume 2. We'll need one more volume to finish out the series. So here is your table of contents on the right hand side, the credits on the left, and we kick it off with Saga Swamp Thing, issue 35. So this collects Saga Swamp Thing 35 through 38, and then the title changes over to just Swamp Thing 39 through 50. So there's a lot of important issues that happen within this Absolute. One of them being, of course, the very first appearance of a very popular character and one of my favorite DC characters, John Constantine. And as you can tell right off the bat, this is modernized colors by Steve Oliff. And honestly, I can see the issues that people had, the purists, right? The people that want this as original as you can get, well, other than the size of it, of course, that they took away Tatjana Wood's colors, her original colors, and then were replaced by these modern colors from Steve Oliff. And Steve Oliff is the gentleman that recolored Akira, for all those people that wondered, when Akira was released by Marvel under their Epic label. So, I don't know. I'm on the fence because I'm going to do a comparison here in a little bit with the original colors because I still have the hardcovers. But I'm on the fence about it. Here, let's skip a little more through here. Because some of it bothers me, and then some of it doesn't. So let's talk about this issue. For example, I've got this issue memorized. This is the first appearance of John Constantine. And this is the one issue that bothers me because I remember the way it's supposed to look in my head. I remember the psychedelic colors, the circles that were reflecting from this nightclub on Constantine's face. Not Sting, but since it's recolored, it bothers me. And I don't know if that's because it's nostalgia or because, and I'll go back to that page to do a color comparison, or if it's the colors, the modern colors that really bother me. I'm thinking it's leaning more towards nostalgia. The way that I remember things and the way it looks now is just different. So that's I know there were some issues with people in Volume 1. There were a few pages that I pointed out in my overview that people were just like, no, this is ridiculous. But I will say that when all three Absolutes are done, because there's going to take 3 of them, as I mentioned, these are the colors that will be used for the omnibus. Because they did the same thing with Sandman. The Sandman Absolutes came out first. The first, I think, 17 issues were recolored, modernized colors. Not to this extent, but those were the colors that they used in the omnibus. So if you're going to wait, if you've never read it, I don't think this is going to be an issue. If you've never read Swamp Thing, you're going to buy this. It's a wonderful story, and I can't wait to talk about the stories here in a second. But if you hold Swamp Thing in a special place inside of that heart of yours, then you might have issues with the modernization of colors. This freaking story right here. But Alan Moore was like, I remember old guys at the shop that I used to talk to, they would call him out for being so progressive about this story right here. The werewolf story. Because it's got, well, I'll talk about that here in a second. But I did want to just focus on the colors at first. And let's go back and talk a little bit about these stories, and then look at the extras and the binding. Hopefully it's better than the first one. So we kick off the Absolute with a two-parter called the Nuke Face Papers, and it's a commentary on what's going on around the world with the nuclear signs that are pointing towards the end of times. And I think Alan Moore does a great job of doing a commentary on what's going on without really shoving it in your face. But then again, the next arc, we are introduced to, like I mentioned, one of the greatest characters in Vertigo mythos, and that is John Constantine, who went on to have his own ongoing series of Hellblazer for 300 issues. And then we get a prologue to American Gothic, which might be, to me at least, the most memorable Swamp Thing story that Alan Moore got to write. We get to see him connect with Abigail again. And I think in this volume, she gets to grow more. And the American Gothic storyline starts off with a two-parter vampire storyline. And then it moves on to this crazy, just freaking insane storyline about the werewolves that I mentioned. And he's able to mix that werewolf story with the oppression of women and menstruation. And I remember, there were old guys at the comic shop that I used to work at that hated the storyline. They were calling him out. And I don't know, I never made that connection because I was young reading these stories. I just thought it was a really good story. By the way, the book, as I'm sure you've seen already, comes with a ribbon. And then we get to the story of the Bogeyman right here, or the Boogeyman rather. And this is a serial killer, and we never really get to see his face, since the story is always told from his point of view. There's ghost dance in here, and this is a take on the American love of guns. And then, if I remember correctly, this is the volume where, right here. So this is the Special Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover from issue 46. What we call the Red Skies formula. It's so weird because, for a while, Alan Moore was just doing his own thing with Swamp Thing and building his own supporting cast characters, including John Constantine, who's growing and growing more, less of a side character and more of a main character, and almost kind of taking over the book by the end of his arc. But it's interesting because then you see him join this Crisis event because he's still part of the DC universe. Because as I mentioned before, all of this takes place before Vertigo was even Vertigo, before Vertigo was its own line, before Sandman was a thing. So it's interesting when Alan Moore, I don't know if he was forced to write these characters or not, but he still had fun with it. Oh, yes, and then we get my boy, Swamp Thing, taking a trip to Carnival, Brazil, and he starts looking a little bit different, taking on the life down there. This is his Carnival outfit, as I like to call it. This outfit right here that he is sporting, different duds. And then I think this all ends with a murder of crows and the summoning. But I will leave you to find out what this is. But it does have an appearance by Cain and Abel long before Sandman. So, Neil Gaiman, I think he borrowed a lot of elements. And I don't think there's any denying that he borrowed a lot of elements from Alan Moore's storytelling, including the use of these two obscure characters. And I'm sure you can probably tell that the artwork is done by several people, but most of it is supplied by Stephen Bissett, and the inks, and sometimes doing his own pencils, is John Tautelben, and Rick Veit is also one of the artists, as well as Stan Wolk. But this is what the artwork looks like, and let's look in the back here for some extras before we do a comparison. The extras include The Curse, the original script, and the original pencils. And there's a couple of cool things back here as far as editorial mandate. This is where they were trying to get away from the comics code. Yeah, right here. So there's a note from John Totalbin about having to change the pencils here, or the inks here, for the finished product, because this was deemed too violent. And all I can really tell between this and this is the missing tooth from this particular zombie. He talks about when Archie Goodwin passed away and the tribute that they did in the original printing of Swamp Thing issue 42. It was being reprinted in the late 90s, right after Archie Goodwin passed away, and they were debating on whether to take that out or not. But then they were like, you know what? He would consider that an honor because he did all the eerie and creepy magazines, and he was known as the greatest editor of those mags. And this is all the extras. The book, by the way, has 464 pages. Retails for $100. Let's look at this binding. So much better than volume 1. There's that eye and sewn binding. Let's do a quick color comparison. So I had to go and find my hardcovers because I bought these a while back, but these do have the original colors. And of course they're on opposite pages, making this more fun to do a comparison of. But this is the way that I remember it. And then this is the new colors. Again, not gonna bother a lot of people, but to me in my head, this is the way this scene has always played out. So this looked completely different to me. Let's do a couple more pages. Again, new coloring and old. I don't think I have to tell you that anymore. But there you have it. It's a lot more going on over here than over here. The covers are also recolored. Sophisticated suspense. So for me in this particular scene, the new colors seem to take away from the amount of detail that Bissett and his inker Alfredo Alcala put on Swamp Thing's face right there. And I don't know about you, but this looks a lot creepier than this for some reason. Could be because I read this as a kid. And just a couple more pages. This is from my volume 4 of the Saga of Swamp Thing hardcover, also available in trade paperback if you're a purist and want to go back and get these with the original colors. Aha, finally found some pages that actually match. So I had to show off my boy Carnival Cruise Swamp Thing here and compare to the original colors up there. Just a couple more pages. And there you have it. And that, as they say, is that. And when this book comes out, you can pick it up from our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and the build of this Absolute Edition. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking it up, if you're going to pass up on it because you're not a fan of the modernized colors, or if you're upgrading from your trades because you love the Absolute Editions, if you're holding off for an omnibus one day. So leave all those comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Check out our Redbubble and our Patreon. Those are amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And thank you to our existing patrons. And more importantly, please everybody stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love to all of you.